assembling the linkage for the stabilators, and the manual calls for 82 millimeters. So I have my caliper here, and basically I've measured 82 millimeters. This is center to center, so I've measured here 82 millimeters. Let's see if we can get that, and that's pretty bang on, center to center. So what I've done is I've already assembled this end here, and since this is metal to metal, I used blue Loctite. You can see some of the remnants, maybe it's not visible right there, but this has been pushed all the way to the end. And then once I measured the 82 millimeters, I measured the length of this brass rod. So I'm gonna undo this guy, and then the brass rod is gonna go in. And the reason I like to do this is because now I can tighten everything here completely, as tight as possible. Use my Loctite again, just to make sure that things stay where I want them to stay. And then we're gonna call this done. Get some Loctite also in here. And then screw that in. So I've set this correctly. So the servo is going to sit like that. So the servo is going to be over here, and the arm for the stabilator is going to come in through here. So the geometry has to be such that this here lines up with the hole. So you can't have this be 90 degrees to that. So there we have it. This is very strong combination, and then once that Loctite cures, nothing's gonna come apart, and this is very rock solid. So this is what we're gonna use in the stabilator. So what I didn't mention is that you have this twin aileron pack, which is where all of this hardware is included. Then you have this piece here, and what this piece is sort of the lock. So when the horn is inserted into this location, then you can actually lock it in place, sort of like that, and that's the locking mechanism. So the next thing we got to do is shift our attention to how this linkage is going to attach to the servo. So what I've found, since I've already installed one, is that the clearance between the back of the servo arm here and the fuselage is very tight. So what I had to do is countersink the back. So here we are, and then what I like to do is attach the side that has been sealed, because this is the linkage here, the ball link here. Attach it this way, just so that you know, if that brass was to come loose, it would be on the inside and would be bound and not be able to move. In your kit, you do get the lock nuts for that. So I'm just gonna find an M3 lock nut in here, and that's what we're gonna use to secure that down. There it is. Just like that. And then once this is tightened, I'm gonna grind any excess M3 screw out, just to leave a clean edge for once it goes in the jet. Okay, so there we go. So you can see that that is pretty flush. This is what you want. You can see that's been trimmed, just a very small amount left. So now we're gonna mount this onto the servo and then stick it in the jet. If you look at the CARF manual, it calls for a dual servo solution. I am going to use one servo, and I'm going to be using these KST X20 7512, And these are monster servos. I mean, they pull 80. They're capable of 82 kilogram centimeter, so a lot of torque. But they also pull a lot of amps. I think at this rating they can pull about somewhere between 12 and 20 amps. I forget. But I figured with that much torque, a really beefy setup and reinforced internals on the jet should be fine. So again, my choice, I'm gonna go with one servo, not dual servos like this, because I have enough torque, and that's that. So we're gonna stick this in the jet and then go from there. Now that we're getting ready to mount this thing, what I like to do is center my servos, and once this is sitting in the jet, what's gonna happen is this is gonna go in through the opening hatch, the turbine hatch, and I'm going to install it this way, and towards essentially right here is the back of the jet, and that way is the front of the jet. And so what's going to happen is this arm is going to sit something like that, and then control the stabilator that way. So what's key here is in the manual they call for this 15 degree you can see how it's 15 degrees towards the long side of the servo that is away from the direction of the spline. So essentially what we're going to do is, instead of mounting this pretty much perpendicular like that, we're going to just a little bit in that way, right? And then that should give us the right a much better placement in the jet. I'm pretty happy with that, and if that's not accurate, the beauty of these KST servos is that they're programmable and I can center them however I want and or use subtrim. So obviously it goes without saying that we have to make sure that we put Loctite in these screws. Once we're happy with it, I'm gonna tighten everything down. I'm gonna put Loctite as well in the center screw right here, because I don't want this to come apart, and then we're gonna screw that in. I find that I have to screw this guy in before I tighten both of these, otherwise sometimes this doesn't fully go in. There we go. So that's done, and obviously we gotta tighten the other side. Here we go. Not too tight, just tight enough. I don't want to strip anything. Excellent. So that's not going anywhere. So now this guy is ready to be inserted into the jet. Let's go do that. You can see those two red tubes there. Those actually hold stainless steel pins that actually lock the hatch. So we're going to take those out, and that allows you this opening right here. And then once you have that opening, your elevator stabilator servos go in here. Since I'm only using one, I'm going to be using the slot right here on the outmost. We also take off the hatch here, and then you can see where the servo is going to go. So we're going to mount that guy and go from there. Now is, because this is a critical servo, I'm running the screws. So these are RTL fasteners number 3 by 7/16 that I'm going to use to secure the servo. They're just the perfect size. But because I'm paranoid, what I'm going to do is run the screws through all the 4 holes for the servo, and that essentially creates the grooves that, or the threads that the screw is going to use to secure itself onto the wood. And as you can see, the plywood that CARF used here is very dense. This is like really good quality ply, so we have very good material and very strong material to hold the servo. So once I create those threads in those holes, I've already done those 2, and this is the last one. I'm gonna then drop CA inside the threads to kind of seal them, and then now when I secure my servo in, that's gonna be a very strong bond to the wood from the screws. So there's a servo installed, loosely sitting in there, and now you can see, if you look at the clearance between the fuselage right there and the servo arm, you see how tight that tolerance is. Basically that ridge there right there is very close. So if you don't countersink the mounting screw in there, it's going to be pretty tight. Anyways, so we have that secured. It's a very tight fit. We're going to screw this in place and then install our stabilator. So I'm going to take my stabilator out of the rev-up bag. Basically, you have this screw, I believe it's M4, and you have this washer here. You have a second washer there, carbon washer, and there is your arm. So basically, we're gonna go insert this into the hole, and then I'll show you how that all gets locked up. So I have added some dry lube to my stabilator horn rod there, and basically we're just gonna insert this. Right now I'm not gonna worry about the horn here. I'm just gonna focus on getting this guy secured in the jet. Just like that. Basically, we have this slot right here, and on the back side of this we have an opening right there. So essentially we take this washer, we're gonna slide that in there, and basically once that's slid in there, we're gonna use that to secure everything. And since that's going into metal, I'm gonna Loctite, and then we'll stick it in there. Just like that. Okay, so I've got my 3mm wrench, and okay, so the beauty of this is that the way CARF designed this, that screw can pretty much be tightened all the way, and you should still be able to move this guy. So that's what we're doing there, and I'm happy with that. It's a very tight fit. So I'm just gonna go double check that, and with that, the stabilator is attached. So all that's left now is to align and lock in my stabilator. So the clips that we showed earlier, so we're just gonna line this up as best we can. Cool. So that's pretty much aligned. You can see from the back what that looks like, and then we're just gonna swing this over and lock it into place, just like that. Let's take a side shot so you can see. Maybe let's zoom in there. You can see that retaining clip right there. And just like that, mounting of the elevators or stabilator is pretty much complete. So we have the final step in the elevator assembly, which is installing the covers, and those go on pretty easy. So you can see we have this carbon fiber piece here, and the cover just slides on top of that and goes right over the hinge. Shot of the cover, you can see that it's got the slot right there, and it came from the factory label, so you know which side goes on where. Basically this area right here slides and captures the carbon rod and the carbon locking mechanism, and that's it. So that process looks something like this. Very easy, straightforward. Captured, slide back, and you're done. And now that is installed. See, works super well. And we're done. Okay, so the final step obviously is securing the hatch, and basically what I did here is I countersunk my holes here, and as you can see with this one, it sits really flush. I think that gives a really clean look. So we're gonna install those guys, and we're gonna find the ventral fins that go in here, install them, and we're done. So all 4 screws are installed. Last thing is just the ventral fins, and you know which side is which because they're marked. You can see the paint, the lines there match those, so you really can't install these backwards. And these are kind of springy, so that when they go in here, they pretty much sit in place and want to stay. And just like that, Stabilators installation is done, ventral fins are done, and that's it for the control stab. So you can see the wiring here, hidden behind that former where the aluminum tape has been placed, and you can see the heat safe snakeskin all the way around there, and then that goes into the center of the fuselage and then gets routed forward. So while I'm here is that wiring that you can see coming back from the rear section of the jet. You can see the shrink of the tie wraps there, and so this is going to get run forward all the way to the nose right here. So there's still a lot of planning of wiring to do, and same thing goes for the other side. All that's going to get wired up to the nose. The electronics are going to sit right here.